They say the three keys to survival are food, water, and shelter. But what if you're camping with the man who considers all three a personal insult? In the vast wilderness of the digital age, there are champions of survival, men who venture into the wild with skill, with knowledge, and with a profound respect for nature. Among the greatest of these is Luke, the patriarch of the outdoor boys. With his sons, he has mastered the art of the catch and cook, turning the harshest environments into a bountiful feast. He is a master, but even a master can meet a grandmaster. Recently, declassified footage has surfaced of a legendary camping trip, an expedition where the world's greatest survivalist family invited a guest whose very presence redefines the meaning of outdoors. I am the chronicler, and today we analyze the field notes from the one time the outdoor boys became the indoor boys by comparison. The first task of any expedition, establishing a base of operations. For the outdoor boys, this is a meticulous process of knot tying, tarp folding, and fire making. For their guest, it is a brief negotiation with the landscape. Luke spent an hour expertly setting up a waterproof tarp shelter. Chuck Norris cleared his throat, and two ancient redwood trees bowed towards each other, forming a perfect, waterproof A-frame cabin. Tommy was gathering firewood. Chuck Norris simply stared at a dead tree until it became so nervous it burst into flames, providing perfectly seasoned, pre-lit kindling. Luke showed off his new ferro rod, skillfully striking it to create a shower of sparks. Chuck Norris rubbed two grizzly bears together and created a bonfire. To purify water, Luke used his state-of-the-art filter pump. Chuck Norris looked at the river, and the water became so pure it was awarded 3 Michelin stars. The boys were worried about mosquitoes. Chuck Norris designated a 5-mile radius around the camp as a no-fly zone. The FAA immediately recognized his authority and rerouted all air traffic. Luke brought a comfortable sleeping bag rated for -20 degrees. Chuck Norris brought a single, thin blanket, not for himself but for the ground, which he didn't want to get too cold from his presence. The boys set up a bear bag to keep their food safe. The local bears, upon smelling the food, instead set up a Chuck Norris bag and offered him their winter supply of berries as a sign of respect. At night, Luke used a headlamp to see. Chuck Norris's eyes simply emitted a soft, high-lumen glow that illuminated the entire forest. Shelter, fire, and water, the pillars of survival, established not with skill, but with sheer will. The camp is set. Quick question for the experts in the comments. What's the most impressive feat so far? The self-building cabin or the Michelin star river? Cast your vote. Now, with the camp secure, the hunt for sustenance begins. The legendary catch and cook. The outdoor boys are masters of angling and trapping. Their knowledge of the wild is second to none, but they soon discovered their guest prefers a more direct method of procurement. Luke masterfully cast his line into the lake, using a lure he'd crafted by hand. Chuck Norris just stood on the shore and said, "All right, who wants to be dinner?" 3 salmon and a trout immediately leapt into his waiting cooler. While checking his crawfish traps, Tommy found they were already full. A note attached, written on a leaf, said, "We volunteer as tribute." The crawfish. Luke spotted a deer in the distance. Before he could even raise his bow, the deer trotted over, presented him with a bushel of wild herbs, and pointed to the best spot for a campfire. Chuck Norris doesn't use bait. He uses I O us. The fish know he's good for it. A massive catfish tried to hide from the outdoor boys. Chuck Norris simply whispered its social security number into the water, and the catfish turned itself in. Luke brought a map and compass for navigation. Chuck Norris doesn't need a compass. The Earth's magnetic North Pole simply asks him where he'd like it to be. A bald eagle was seen flying overhead, not to hunt, but to deliver a DoorDash order of salt and pepper that Chuck had forgotten. The boys tried to forage for mushrooms. Chuck Norris just held out his hand, and a truffle the size of a football grew out of the ground at his feet. And Bounty not just caught, but willingly surrendered. The freezer, as they say, is full. If you believe every camping trip would be better with Chuck Norris, show your support for this expedition by hitting the like button. Now, for the final, most delicious part of the ritual, the cook. The outdoor boys are known for their delicious, hearty campfire meals, but cooking for a legend requires a different level of culinary respect. Luke started to scale the fish. The fish's scales, out of respect for their final destination, just fell off on their own. He went to chop some onions for the side dish. The onions saw who they were being cooked for and were too scared to make anyone cry. Chuck Norris doesn't need a frying pan. He just holds a fish over the fire and stares at it until it's cooked to a perfect golden brown. The fire wasn't hot enough. Luke went to add more wood. Chuck Norris just told the fire a joke and it flared up laughing. The boys seasoned their fish with lemon and herbs. Chuck Norris seasoned his with the lingering fear of his enemies. It tasted like victory. Luke checked the fish's internal temperature with a meat thermometer. The thermometer didn't give a number. It just read, "Done," and honored to be so. When they sat down to eat, the forks and knives didn't clink. They bowed slightly to the food on the plate. After the meal, there were no leftovers. The plates were so intimidated by Chuck Norris's appetite that they had cleaned themselves. For dessert, the boys had s'mores. Chuck Norris just toasted a marshmallow by looking at it. It achieved a perfect golden brown state of enlightenment. And so the expedition concludes. The outdoor boys returned with full stomachs and a story for the ages. They learned that survival is not just about skill. It is about your place in the natural order. And when you camp with the man at the very top of that order, the wilderness doesn't present a challenge. It presents a catered, 5-star experience. The greatest lesson they learned was this: you don't survive the outdoors with Chuck Norris. The outdoors survives you. This crossover was legendary. What crossover should we do next? The best idea in the comments might become episode 8, but to be eligible, you must be a subscriber. Hit that subscribe button and join the Creative Council.